Welcome to another video of Lord PeteyTV Plays. What we're going to be doing is we're going to be going through a couple of dungeons here, and what we're going to be doing is we're going to be talking about what we do in certain situations and how we kind of fix them and went through it, how the bosses are dealt with, and so on and so forth. We're going to be dealing with multiple different classes. Uh, I would say it's going to be up to 5 or 6 different classes, but as of right now, we're prioritizing Druid and Monk, or I should say Balanced Druid and Brewmaster Monk. So please check us out. We're going to be doing a lot of other keys for other classes too. So we'll see you all soon.
Tyrannical, Entangling, and Bursting, which makes us really take into account the pulls and a lot of other things that are occurring here. So we're going to be talking about this stuff throughout the whole entire week, and hopefully you enjoy the videos. So the most important thing that we kind of take care of as we're going through here is we're ending up trying to pull these groups kind of quickly, and we're trying to pull them not too large. Because of the bursting, we want to make sure it gives enough time for it to expire before we go through. You'll see throughout the whole entire day, we're going to end up having situations where we pull too much, we're going to have this problem or that problem. Now, throughout this first pull, kind of going towards the boss area, we end up making sure the pulls are proper. And then we're going to go into the last portion here where it's going to be, the menders, the naturalists, and we're kind of trying to make sure we don't pull too many of them at the same time. But our AoE is actually pretty good. We try to make sure that we chain stuns in some type of way, meaning the Demon Hunter's AoE stun, the interrupts from the paladins, and also, my demoralizing roar, and also the solar beam.
Make sure you end up checking out our other channels. We have a sister channel called Gaming Fire with Lord PeteyTV, which we end up giving you some specific gaming news that is popping up here and there throughout the whole entire week. And then make sure you're also checking out our Stories with Lord PeteyTV, where we end up giving you little short stories that he's handwritten throughout the whole entire week, which we think you'll greatly appreciate. Thank you so much, and check those out. And hit the subscribe button here when you are ready.
Now, one of the more interesting scenarios while we're doing this is the fact that we ended up doing, a little bit of a res right before it ended up happening, and I kind of freaked out a little bit because I thought I was not going to be able to be inside the group. Now, what I try to do as the only range DPS is I try to deal with the dot that's put on me that drops the roots on the ground, the unchecked growth, if you will, around the boss. Now, when I end up doing that, I try to make sure that I put in a line in kind of like a arc. And when I'm ending up doing that, everyone's just DPSing the heck out of them, and we're not really worried about anything else. Now, I pretty much have one of the more important roles because those unchecked growths during tyrannical weeks are really, really important to make sure that the water ends up hitting them so that we can maximize our time on the dry phase. Now, the thing I did not realize when I was going through this is that I wasn't going far enough to the sides with the growths because it was ending up not allowing the water to hit them. So during this time frame, during the boss, we kind of had to adjust and play on the fly. Now, we kind of just made sure that we kept full communications open on placement of where things are and where things go. Now, one of the things that was nice about this scenario is that most of us we're pretty much AoE and single target spec. So when it comes to the unchecked growths, they go down super quick. The other thing that's nice, for at least for me as a boomkin, I can end up putting dots on them, which will allow me to get more astral power throughout the whole entire time we're doing this fight. So we're going to end up doing this, and he's going to end up going into the phase where the water stops coming, and this is where I'm ended up told, hey, I need you to come more towards the right because we need to make sure that we end up getting the water that's coming in, because it's kind of scooching by the rest of the unchecked growths. So we end up just doing a lot more DPS to the boss. We kind of end up trying to push through it, and we kind of just talk through the scenarios here.
Next to me was just not quite far enough. Run away.
There you go.
Thanks.
Y'all happy? You got your stuff now?
Yeah,
Ooh.
full coverage.
What are you,
Like
fucking Geico?
AT&T. I am open for sponsorships.
Look at that. Wanted to squeak through.
Oh, that reminds me. I gotta do a... Tomorrow we're gonna have a conversation.
Run away.
Yeah.
Everybody's on me. Everybody's on me.
Aren't you used to that? Nothing.
So during this time, our tank actually has a route that actually doesn't have us pull a lot of this little stuff, which in my opinion is actually pretty good because it actually speeds up the process very, very much. And also the other thing is that we don't have to worry so much about the bursting. So what we do have situational happen on occasion is we end up butt pulling things, which ends up changing the route a little bit. But as you can see, we just like rip through groups, and the the what Shammer ends up doing as our tank for these push keys is he makes sure when he pulls those large groups that Roman, who is our monk healer, has the ability to revival the groups. Now, the thing that is really, really problematic with these groups are mostly the berserkers. So to combat that, I try to make sure that I do my Ursals as often as I can to hold them together. Throughout the dots, we kind of just going through it. I usually tend to burn my cooldowns there, or what'll end up happening is one of the other guys will end up burning their cooldowns to burn through these things, and we kind of rotate through them as a as a unit. Now, this pull isn't too bad. Like I said, these things go through really, really quick. Between myself, Dak, and Jake here, we kind of really have a lot of DPS as we go through, AoE specifically. We try to make sure that we have a lot of stuns going on. As you can see, that's working really well. And I think that one thing that for all of us needs to make sure we do more and more and more is we end up rotating our cooldowns for certain packs. So we're all not just blasting all of our cooldowns at one time, and we kind of just rotate them so that they're all ready to go for almost every single pull. Are you looking to support the channel? Please make sure you go to our merch store. The link is in the comments below. We have mugs, shirts, lots of cool things that we will love you to purchase and be wearing and supporting the channel. I greatly appreciate it, and thank you so much. So after we end up taking out these last couple of mobs, we're going to end up pulling the boss. Now, we had a little bit of a situation with the first pull on the boss because of the pools on the ground. So what we end up trying to, I try to make sure I'm doing is I'm making sure that I put dots on all the ads, and I end up, just trying to put, as many dots as possible. Now, the Tormented Furies are things that kind of come off of the rest, or I should say the water boss during this time, and there is a supposed range on them. I didn't think that it was going to be ending up doing this much damage, but during this time, it really does do a lot of damage. So we tried to talk about it and tried to finish things up. We talked about, rezzing some people here, kind of trying to see if we could save the pull. But in the end, what we ended up discussing and deciding is we had a couple of deaths. We decided, hey, let's just take the L on this time around. Let's just, come back at it and kind of just push the boss properly with the right people around. So personally, myself, I got really, really frustrated because I kept being placed in a situation and a placement throughout this whole entire fight where I ended up taking damage from the water boss as I was trying to stay away from people dealing with the puddles on the ground. So, like I said, we end up taking the L here. We kind of end up letting it go, and then we end up coming back with with a new look on the boss. So this time around, we kind of take that moment to kind of collectively realize what we're doing. As you can see here, my positioning is vastly different than the other times. I'm more off to the side.
which allows for more, damage to the boss. It allows for more things that are happening throughout this whole entire fight. Now, as you can see here, I try to make sure I give enough distance to the others so they can run out. As for me, I really do have a little bit of a leeway of being able to be a little bit farther out, but I don't want to be that far out because then Roman's, smart heals won't always be hitting me. As myself being a former, Mistweaver monk, main, I kind of knew where I should be standing and where I shouldn't be standing. And this time I really learned don't stand by that other boss. As you can see, I kind of came closer. The other thing I wanted to make sure I tried to do is I tried to make sure I dot the other boss while this is occurring. The problem with that is that he was just a little bit out of my range, it felt like, from where I was standing. So I kind of tried to, move around a little bit differently to see if I could do that. I continued to, use my half moon. I continued to use full moon. I continued to, keep my rotation going for single target. And when I saw them that they were close enough together, I actually was starfiring to produce more damage. So that was something that we really wanted to do. We really wanted to try to get through the first boss as quick as possible so we can get to the water boss. As you can see here, we end up really pulling through. We end up really pushing through the water boss. We continue to have, the interrupts going off. We continue to try to do as whatever we can, and we try to take as many of those water bolts and interrupt them as we're going through because they are doing a decent chunk damage to everybody in the group.
Run away.
Three, two, one. Three, two, one.
Run away.
Three, two, one. Three, two, one.
Run away.
Move, move, move. So after we kill that boss, we kind of run up to the next area. Now, we end up stealthing past a good deal of these guys in the beginning. And the reason for that is not because we're trying to bypass most of them. The reason why is because it's actually a really, really good place to pull, a good chunk of these guys. We can actually end up missing a couple of the first padding group that's there also. So the nice thing that's happening with our group itself is that we're learning how to be a little more cohesive and where we are and what's going on. So we end up trying to pull all these guys. We try to burn as many of these guys down. I end up learning personally that I should not be standing so close to them due to the fact that we have to deal with the what's it called, the arcane ball blast. That's not arcane blast, the arcane ball, the spatial disruptions. Trying to make sure I stay away from those because those are probably my biggest problem, because sometimes I just don't have enough time to move out of the way because of my own stupidity. So I try to make sure I give myself a little leeway, a little distance to kind of get through that. Once we end up getting that down, easy peasy. Now, we end up going around the corner. We end up pulling a bunch of these mobs. And you may be asking yourself, why are you ending up pulling all these mobs? It is really weird to be pulling them before opening them up. What we actually do that for is we actually use those so that I can actually get more astral energy so that I can actually DPS a little bit harder. The one thing that we've noticed is that when it comes to myself being able to DPS, I DPS a little stronger when I have a lot more astral power. Even though I flubbed it a little bit and I ended up not doing it properly, that's me trying to learn. I can see that my other teammates are really, really pushing the boss right now. My essential job, being that I am one of the only ranged DPS, is making sure that I keep myself alive and that I make sure I keep myself ready for the spatial compressions that are going to be coming. I told them, hey, I'm going to be on the road on top of the hill. That way my teammates know where that, spatial compression is going to be.
so that they know when they move out of the way and they're going to get pulled, they're going to get pulled to this location. So they end up learning where the location is as they're going through. This really does help them a lot with knowing where things are. With them knowing where things are, it really puts them at mental ease to know how to properly DPS the boss. And it really makes sure that it teaches them to make sure that they're not going to be like thrown into a fireball or thrown into an ice ball or any of those things. And this works out super, super well. And we end up really getting this boss down. Really, actually, a lot easier than I was personally expecting. Straight behind you, Jack. A lot of frost. Jesus. My nips are frozen.
Fire
on that hole.
arcane. Don't get pulled.
Fire will burn away the contagion.
Run
Fire
away.
frost.
Surely the cold will make them wither.
So how do you keep yourself hydrated over those long gaming sessions? Here at Lord PeteyTV, we end up using Rogue energy drinks. That is what we use here. We end up drinking those throughout the whole entire sessions. Please make sure you go there and use Lord PeteyTV at checkout when you end up purchasing some of those amazing drinks. So the last boss, the interesting part about this whole scenario is that we really wanted to make sure that we were going to be DPSing the boss properly, and we were going to make sure that we really didn't have any problems with, with the ads that are coming up. Now, one thing that we really wanted to make sure that we ended up doing for me was before the Genesis happened is to make sure that we end up killing that boss before anything, because that will be the killer for us all. Or in my case, just the Colossal Blow themselves. The Colossal Blow does an extremely large amount of damage, and it does an extremely large amount of damage to specifically me as a Boomkin. So what we end up doing here is we end up dealing with all those shenanigans. I end up getting res, and I kind of restart my rotation. I try to start getting my buffs and everything else going on, and we kind of just go through it. Now, the thing that is the most interesting during this boss is that for me being a balanced druid, as you watch, I will end up shifting right before the Colossal Blow, and I will end up either A, using Bark Skin, or B, I'll use Frenzy Regeneration. The reason why I do that is because I wanted to alleviate some of the issues and pains that our healer has when we're dealing with that. The amount of HP and armor I do get Ursa's Fury, I think it is called, which actually gives me more HP and more armor, which is perfect for this case. Now, I ended up screwing up here on this part of the thing because I ended up starting to run and try to do as much as I can prior to us killing the other ad that comes up. So, like I always said, this is really a learning scenario, and we really tried to work as much as we possibly could on trying to cohesively figure out exactly what we wanted to do throughout this whole entire time. Now, we end up really taking... The dope boss doesn't take that long to take care of, but we ended up killing him. We timed it, and I was super happy, and this 21 Everbloom actually gave me points, which is actually a surprise, but I'll take it. It's a positive notion for me. Blow coming, so yeah. And Genesis is coming up now. We can still just blast. See how that went down quicker? Should I even go after those things? Because you guys are like friggin' flying.
I wonder if the gating is too loud. Am I?
Thank you so much for taking your time out and checking out the amazing videos that we are ending up producing here. Now, just a reminder, we end up putting videos out throughout the whole entire week involving our Mistweaver Monk, our Brewmaster Monk, our Boomkin Druid, our Guardian Druid, our Combat Rogue, and many other classes throughout the whole entire week. But please make sure you come and check us out. We are doing this every single week live on twitch.tv every single Monday through Friday. Please come check us out. Subscribe to our YouTube page here and our sister pages. And if you're looking to support the channel, you know where to find it. Thank you so much and have a fantastic rest of your day.